RB-3s of the Vanguard Squadron.
Of the Vanguard Flying Squadron. We fly a four-ship formation aerobatic routine, air shows around the U.S., most in the upper Midwest, but we've gone as far as Washington or Ohio and Kentucky, which we did this past year. We fly four of the RB-3s, which these blues is a single-seat aerobatic airplane. That's about a 12-minute routine that we do. We do loops, barrel rolls, various aerobatic maneuvers, all in close formation. To prepare for this, we'll practice quite often before we actually do a show. And to prepare for the practice, we'll do things like check the airplane out for mechanical problems. We'll talk about what we're going to do. We'll go over every maneuver that we're going to do before we actually do it.
Well, I'm Gary Middlebrooks. I fly with the Vanguard Squadron as number 4, the slot position back in the back of the formation. I grew up in South Carolina, and then in 1980 I went off to the Air Force Academy for 4 years. From there I joined the Air Force. Worked as a T-38 instructor pilot for new pilots, teaching them how to fly for about 3 years. And then after that I got into an F-16 flying fighters. I did that for another 15 years total in the Air Force. Then I moved to South Dakota and joined the South Dakota Air National Guard, doing the same thing, flying the F-16s out at the airport in case you happen to be by and have seen them out there. In 2012, I retired from the Air National Guard. I worked as a crop duster out in Chamberlain for 5 or 6 years, and then I switched over and started doing aero firefighting, flying tanker planes down in the American West. Little single-engine air tankers. They're Air Tractor 802s. They're modified crop dusters that we use with drop retardant to help fight forest fires. And then I fly with the Vanguards. In the summer, we do air shows all over the country.
Hi, Joe Brewster here. I'm a member of the Vanguard Flying Squadron Formation Aerobatic Team here in South Dakota. I started out flying in high school. My dad had an airplane at 172. I flew that around and got my private pilot's license when I was in high school. I grew up in Sisseton, South Dakota. After high school, I went to school at South Dakota State University, majored in mathematics, graduated there in 1991, went into the Air Force as a pilot, flew for a number of years, transports and trainers in the Air Force. Eventually separated from the Air Force and went to work for FedEx as a pilot there. I'm currently flying a captain on a 767 at FedEx. I'm Joe Brewster. I fly the right wing of the Vanguard Flying Squadron Airshow team, and I want to talk a little bit about getting your initial pilot's license, called private pilot's license. It takes 40 hours minimum of time to get your pilot's license, 40 hours of dual instruction with an instructor, where you go up with an instructor and fly at least 20 hours, and then 20 hours of solo, where you go up by yourself and fly. And again, that's 20 hours of each. You need 10 hours across country. You need 3 hours a night also to qualify to be a private pilot. You have to take a written test also and a check ride at the end where you go with an examiner and you fly with him for about an hour, hour and a half. You'll fly through various maneuvers which he asks, and at the end you'll take an oral exam to ask you various questions about the airplane, about navigation, and about flying in general. After all that, you have a private pilot's license. If you want to keep your private pilots, there's a couple of things you have to do. Every 2 years you have to go up with an instructor just to make sure you're still doing all the proper maneuvers correctly and safe takeoffs and landings. And you have to have a medical renewed every 2 years, and you have to do at least 3 takeoff or landings every 90 days. That's to stay current as a private pilot.
This is called an RV-8. It's a home-built experimental airplane. As you can see, it's a monoplane. It just has one wing across, and then you have a vertical and horizontal tail at the back of the airplane back there. Basic controls of the airplane. Obviously, you have the propeller on the front. It's just a big fan, and that pulls the airplane. So as the engine's running, it's going to provide the thrust to pull the airplane forward through the air. And the wings provide the lift. The air that comes across the top of the wing has a lower pressure than the air on the bottom, so it makes the airplane fly. And then we use the various controls to control what the airplane is doing. So for instance, I see here I take the stick. This is how I control most of it. If I move the stick to the right, you can see the aileron goes up. If I move the stick to the left, the aileron goes down. So that'll change what the wing does. So if I have the aileron to the right, like this, it makes the airplane roll that way. And if I do the other way, like this, then it makes the airplane roll in the opposite direction. So that's the aileron. And then back at the back, if you look there, if I pull the stick back, it moves the elevator up, and that'll make the nose go up so you start climbing. If you push the stick forward, the elevator goes down, the nose goes down, and the airplane descends. And lastly, you have rudder pedals, which you move with your feet. I don't know if you can see those, and probably not.
Yeah.
When I move the rudder, you can see it moves the rudder that way, and that yaws the nose left and right, depending on how you use it there. That's the basics of flying the aircraft. And then there's it's really a very simple aircraft, so there's not too much that goes into starting the engine. You just turn your main power switch on, you prime the engine, you make sure that your throttle and mixture are set where you want them, and then you just turn the key, starts the engine up just like a car for the most part. And it's a four-cylinder, flat four-cylinder engine. And the rest of this is all avionics that we use while we're flying. If you want to get a close-up there. This is your attitude indicator, so this always stays parallel to the ground. So if you're in the weather and you can't see which way is up or down, you just make sure that you keep this level here so you're flying level in the weather. And then you've got your altitude and your airspeed, and this is how much you're climbing or descending. Your magnetic compass, so you know what direction you're going, and this is a navigational tool for flying an instrument approach. This is just a little yaw indicator there. And then we have the electronics over here that tells us about the engine. It'll be on that, and then over on this side there's a navigational GPS system, just like the GPS you'd use driving on the highway. It does essentially the same thing there.